Hi everyone, this is Julie Duffield, Q member here at Q Live, and I'm very excited to be joining you and have the privilege of interviewing Michelle Pacansky-Brock. Did I get it right,
You
Michelle?
did.
Great.
Nice job.
And Michelle has many different stories to tell, and just before we were prepping for this interview, she said that technology is close to her heart, and she has a great story behind that. But Michelle, I want to turn over to you and ask you, you've got a book coming up.
I do, yeah. I've been very honored to have the opportunity to just author a book that'll be published this coming fall, 2012, and the title is Best Practices for Teaching with Emerging Technologies. And it's a little bit of a combination of my own personal story about my journey through teaching and how I have really been transformed through my own use of Web 2.0 and social media, how I've infused those in my own teaching and learning and really used them to build a very student-centered learning environment, online, face-to-face, blended, as well as integrating a series of practices from professors from around the nation. So the book is actually written for college professors, but I do think that it'll actually meet the needs of all educators who may be trying to understand, what the application of social media and Web 2.0 tools are to teaching and learning. So I hope that it will be a resource for many people.
So you have an interesting story. You're a professor at a community college, but you tell us a little bit about that. You're really a virtual professor, and you were telling me an interesting story how Michelle was the first person to get employed who doesn't actually live in the community.
Yeah, I have kind of a varied background. I was a full-time professor for 7 years at a community college in California, and I resigned from that position. I kind of grew out of I was an art history professor, and I really kind of grew out of that position, and I fell in love with teaching and learning, and now I see myself as kind of a blend between a teacher, a faculty development specialist. I do a lot of speaking and writing. I'm an active blogger about educational technology, so I do a lot of stuff. But what you're referring to is now I'm a part-time teacher. I'm an online associate faculty member for Mount San Jacinto College, and I'm the first virtual employee that they have hired, which is really exciting. It's fun to be, at the forefront of that field. But it was very interesting. I live near Sacramento, and the college is down south in the Inland Empire. So I live several hundred miles away from the college, and I had a lot of support with being hired at the campus, but there was no process to actually hire someone virtually. And I think just going through that process was very telling, because it just kind of opened my eyes as well as the administrator's eyes to, how much we still need to develop, to get our processes in place to meet this new way of teaching and learning. So while we look at these huge enrollments that we've seen with online learning in higher education, 1 in 3 college students last year was enrolled in at least one online class across the nation. At least in California community colleges, most of the instructors who are teaching those online classes are still living locally, right in the backyard of those community colleges. So it's interesting.
So I also think it's interesting that you are also part of the Atone program that helps facilitate teachers who want to, in the community colleges, learn more about how to teach online.
Atone is a phenomenal service. The website is onefortraining.org, and Atone is funded through a grant from the California Community College Chancellor's Office, and it funds training for faculty members. And it's actually open to anyone. So we have a lot of California Community College faculty members, but also K-12 teachers, and we have 4-year instructors. We have international educators who come and take our classes, and they're all fully online. Atone recently launched an online teaching certification program, which is a very robust, outstanding program that's aligned with the INACOL standards. And I teach one of the courses within that certification program, and it's called Building Online Community with Social Media. And it's it's just a dazzling class to teach, and you know, it's one of these classes where I have people come in, and a lot of them are just
we want to find
awestruck, and they don't know what to expect, and they're kind of nervous, and they come out of it like, you know, oh my gosh, I just created a Google site and I embedded a Voicethread in it, and I have a Twitter account, and I can follow hashtags now, and their world is opened up, and it's pretty wonderful.
That is great, because, you know, I've been involved in online communities for a long time, and one of the pieces that I've always struggled with has been how to build trust. So people want to risk take and share about who they are. And I loved reading about you using Voicethreads, because I think not everyone is a writer and wants to expose themselves that way. So can you elaborate a little bit about this trust and use of Voicethread, perhaps, to show perspective?
Absolutely, yeah. So in terms of using Web 2.0 and social media tools in an online class, you know, and I think that there's an argument for both sides, teaching and learning in the open web. There's so much validity, you know, about getting students out there and, you know, learning real world skills. On the flip side of that, you're right, right? When we're trying to build community, trust and safety it's imperative. And so one of the things that I do that I really try to encourage faculty to think about is to try to blend in a variety of tools. So maybe you're using Twitter to some degree, but it is really important that if you're having students come into a class and share things that, you know, are of a personal nature, where if you really want students to open up and be deeply reflective, which I certainly do. You know, teaching art history, and I'm teaching the history of photography now. I mean, that's certainly, that interpretive element is really important. And so what I use is Voicethread, which is a Web 2.0 tool that has a range of security options, and I employ the completely secure option, and so I'm able to create a group that the students in my class join the group, and only the people who are group members have access to the Voicethreads.
Wow, so they feel safe.
Yeah, and so I can embed the Voicethread in my course management system. They also can use the free mobile app to access it. So I have 30% of my students right now using their iPhones to actually access the Voicethreads, and it's fabulous because now that mobile app is available, I have more students who have access to leaving the voice and video comments. And you know, so I've got my students holding up their phone, leaving video comments, and it's really outstanding. And I cannot stress enough the value of having you know, it's just a tool, but it's not the tool that matters. It's the effect that it brings into the learning environment. And when students can hear each other and see each other in the online environment, and when I can hear and see my students, and when I can, you know, hear the inflection in their voice, you know, and hear the growth. The first time they come in and they start talking and they're nervous and quivering, and then they start to, you know, you know, it grows and the confidence grows, and then they start to understand the terminology over the weeks, and it builds and it builds, and it's you don't have that with text. So that blending of the writing with the voice, I think it's really something we need to be striving for with the growth of online, because we don't have that. And as we have this new generation of college students
I was going to ask
that are graduating with online degrees, you know, it concerns me, you know, that they're not speaking.
Yeah, so I think that's what that really appealed to me, was picking the right tool for the pedagogy, building up community, and there's sort of people seeing and learning from one another with voice. So
I know I went a few tangents there, but I think that it's very multi-dimensional. It's the community element, but then also just the verbal skills, and I can see it with the students, you know, because they're very timid, they're very nervous. And I have one student in my class right now who has taken 15 online classes, and this is the first time she's ever had to speak.
Wow.
So it's very interesting,
And I also loved hearing about the learning of the M-learning, the mobile piece, that the students are taking the learning wherever they are and bringing it back into this conversation and the classroom with you.
It's really beautiful. And it's also interesting on another level, because we know that we know that online learning changes the demographic of, right, who has access to the class. And so we've known, for years we've known that, for example, single parents, right, who didn't traditionally have access to getting to a campus to enroll in a college class now can take online classes. Well, now I have my students recording their video comments, holding their babies in their arms. And, and I thought, it just occurred to me, I thought, well, that's so interesting because it's always been that way. They've always been doing their homework that way. But now I can see it. And now all the other students can see it. And so it makes it richer, normal for everyone, right?
Yeah.
And I love that. I really love that, yeah.
Well, Michelle, I wish you all the best with your book, and thank you. Keep up the wonderful work. And I did try to enroll in your course today, and it's fall, so you're a very busy person.
And visit my blog. My blog is
what is your blog?
teachingwithoutwalls.com. Yeah,
so visit Michelle's blog, Teaching Without Walls.
Without Walls.
Without Walls. Thank you.